There's a deep, wonderful, not really pernicious act of conspiracy. And that act of conspiracy happens to be the conspiracy to open each and every one of us into the love that's simply been waiting for us at the core of our being. Underneath all the trying, all the conditioning, all the ideas that, we were taught that, I ought not to do this if I want to be loved. I ought to do this to some degree if I want to be accepted. Underneath all that kind of writhing and grasping that we tend to fall asleep to just because it's so habitual. Underneath all of that, there is, and outside of all of it, there is a level of ourself that never fell asleep. There is a level of our being that was fully awake from the get-go. It's always been fully awake. And sometimes in some of our lives, it decides to be perhaps a bit of a trickster or a spiritual arsonist. It sometimes is an aspect of consciousness for whom the good is actually often a very large enemy of the perfect. There is a part inside some of us. It's not as crazily active in all lives. I'd say it's in all of us. Some of us, some reason, just have a different set of karmas or different plan. But in some of us, that spiritual arsonist is very, very active. But its goal, of course, is extremely benevolent. Its goal is that it's not going to be satisfied living some kind of a 65% of 65% life, or a life in which we're fearful. I'm deeply afraid and conditioned. Only 20%, and kind of flowing sort of 80%. No, it wants it all. And I've seen in some people's lives, perhaps even my own actually, I've seen it when it's meant to become awake in somebody, when there's such a zeal and a ripeness that wants to just bloom and open, that, the best laid plans of mice and men are audibled at the last moment or blown into smithereens or something else, and we are directed into maybe perhaps what at the time seems like just a awful instability, and yet if we can persist in a good way, if we can maintain a connection to something solid in our experience, something genuinely born of that true deep love of the soul, then we land on our feet and we're like, oh, thank God. Thank God you came around. Thank God that instinct deep in there decided to blow this all up. And that's part of the conspiracy. I think this conspiracy has many conspirators. It might show up as the indwelling spiritual arsonist in you. It might come in the form of a trickster friend or teacher, or a non-trickster, straight-up friend or teacher who come in at just the right place and just the right time. And sometimes I think of like the role mythically of like a Krishna type, out of Hinduism. And there's a lot of different stories I could pick. So I'm gonna, piss some people off by not including the full range. But I often think of Krishna as being this agent that comes into one's life, and with the strategy of, we're going to load your life with so much magic and love that it's going to be uncomfortable for you in the best possible way, that the kitchen is going to get so hot that you're going to need to change the interior psychological arrangement so that it's no longer hot. You're going to have to vibrate at the level of lightning so that it doesn't split you in two like if you were an oak tree. And that's part of the spiritual arsonist, if it's in there. Mine I used to call the crazy monk down in the basement. And those were my actual words for it. And I was trying to live a, well, I don't know. I guess I was trying to live a normal life, a safe life. I was 16 to 17. I'd had a near-death experience at age 13. Really changed a lot of things. I was in some ways in resistance to just how far the change wanted to go, for a variety of reasons. For maybe perhaps laudable reasons in our society. Like I felt I owed, something to my family, to a certain extent to my deceased mother, to myself, to my previous self, and the goals which weren't particularly like selfish in some way. And I wanted to be like a lawyer, perhaps be in politics someday, do something good, be a servant to my community, to my fellow human beings. And it just wasn't taken anymore. I could try to look in the mirror and give myself a pep talk in an elevator pitch and say, like, hey, pull yourself together, get with the program. This is what you got to do and what you got to be, and don't what's your problem? A lot of stuff like that. And I can't say there was a singular moment when everything came to the head. It was a drip, drip, drip. But I do remember watching Franco Zeffirelli's 1971, right? Brother, Sun, Sister, Moon, Story of St. Francis, and Francisco Zeffirelli. And it wasn't really any scene in particular, the effect of the whole movie, but in that scene when he converts, when he takes his clothes off, and he gives them to his parents, and he walks, naked out into the Umbrian winter, that was it. Something that could have been it. There's probably a few exclamation points, and that was a signal to better open up to this deep, crazy force that's in there. This force that said, no, we can't wait till we're 46 or whatever to jump on the path of meditation and liberation, or whatever you want to call it, at the rate at which we want to do it. It's got to be now. It has to be now, because if we don't do it now, something in us will die more than we want it to. And it's going to show up different in all of our lives. I am extremely glad that I went that way, even though it actually probably has caused me all sorts of practical difficulties that may not have been there if I had chosen a sort of a safer path that had been laid out before me. But that said, there's nothing like, and I bet some of you experience this, it's a specific, particular type of satisfaction when you have really done something that you might not even know it's on your soul's bucket list. We'll call it the soul's bucket list. You might not even know it was there beforehand, but when you do it, when you're in it, and oftentimes in many of our lives, it's like going on a particular vacation or a pilgrimage. And some people have this experience with the pyramids, or with Machu Picchu, or with Glastonbury in the UK, or whatever it might be. You might have known it when you're there, and you're in that moment. You're like, and something way down in you says, "Thank God I'm here right now," and that's making your cue. That's making your cue. And that's really all this conspiracy wants out of us, is it wants us 100%, and it wants us to hit that cue. It wants us to open up to the totality of love that has been trying, and often perhaps struggling mightily, to move through a personality filter that has not always been sufficiently flexible or amenable. And the best way to help me hit my cue was having to find, like a regular methodology, which I didn't have for my teenage years for the most part. I just walked into these wonderful, somewhat ephemeral, profound mystical openings. Some of them lasted for 24 hours, and that was wonderful to have a whole day of just hitting your cue. Wonderful. But I didn't have really a way to do it and to get back into it. And so, as you probably hear on my channel ad nauseum, I'm trying to suggest you to go learn some good meditation practice, whether from me or somebody else. Doesn't matter. If that's in your queue, race towards it. So, I have no idea how I started this video off. I don't have notes. I'm not really planning any of this. Just rambling at you. If you enjoyed that ramble, please like and subscribe. That helps me and my work a great deal. And if you want to know more about my work and my, kind of a couple main spiritual vocations, mainly meditation teaching and astrological and intuitive guidance, you probably see those links below the video. So it was lovely to sit here with you. And if any of you made it to 11 minutes and 26 seconds, bravo.